Microsoft Excel has over 400 functions. What? Really? Yep, that's right. And in this video, I will cover the count function. So, let's get ready to Excel.
Excel.
The Excel function count comes in 5 main flavors. There's the good old count function, which counts the number of cells that contain numbers. Then we have count A, which counts the number of cells that contain numbers or letters. In other words, the cells are not empty. Then we go to count blank, which as the name describes, it counts the number of empty cells. Then we see count if, which counts the number of cells that fit a certain criteria. And finally, we wrap up the count family with Countifs, which is the plural of count if, meaning it counts the number of cells that fits more than just one criteria. So let's see all these 5 functions in action. I created this small table with 10 employee names, their salaries, and in what city they're located. And now I want to count how many cells in my table have salary values, meaning how many cells have numbers. You can see in my table that I have a blank salary cell and a cell that has the word pending. So if I set up the count function correctly, then I should get 8 as my result. So let's see. I'll click on this cell, type =, so I can tell Excel that I'm starting a formula. I type count, I hit tab on my keyboard, and now you see that this function takes cells or a range of cells as a parameter. So I'll highlight the cells that I want to consider in my count, then I hit enter, and as expected the result is 8. Why? Because the count function counts any cell that has numbers. So the blank cell and the cell with pending in it doesn't count because they don't have numbers. Now of course we could have eyeballed this table and counted ourselves, but when you're working with large Excel tables with thousands of rows, it will be very hard to find them all. So we rely on these Excel functions to be more effective and productive. Okay, so that was the count function. And now let's move on to the count A function. This function counts any cell that has either numbers or text. In other words, it counts any cell that is not blank. So I will click on the cell where I want to display the result. Then I type =, to start my formula. Then I type count A, then tab. Then just like the count function, I highlight the cell range that I want to consider in my count, and I hit enter. And as you might have guessed it, the result is 9, because the function count A counts any cell that is not blank, which are these 9 cells here. Alright, on to the third count function, and that is count blank. I click on this cell here, I type =, then I type count blank, then tab, then I highlight my range of cells, then I hit enter. And as expected, the result is 1 because we only have one blank cell in the cell range that I highlighted. Now let's take the count function to a higher level. I want to count cells that meet a certain criteria. For example, let's count how many cells have a salary of $55,000. So I click on the cell that I want to display my result. I type =, then I type COUNTIF, then tab. And here you can see that this function requires the cell or the cell range plus a certain criteria. So for the cell range, I'll highlight the salaries. Then I type comma so I can move to the next parameter, which is the criteria. And since I want to count cells with $55,000, then I just type 55,000 and hit enter. Now if I want to count cells with Philadelphia as the city, then I would do this. I click on the cell where I want the result to appear. I type =, then I type COUNTIF, then tab, then I highlight my cells, then I type a comma to go to the next parameter, which is the criteria. And for that, I type Philadelphia, and I hit enter. But wait a minute, why is the result 0? Why didn't the COUNTIF function not find any cell that fits my criteria? There are clearly 2 cells in my cell range that contain the word Philadelphia. Well, the reason why this COUNTIF did not work this time is because Philadelphia is text, and text always needs to be surrounded by double quotes. That's how Excel distinguishes between numbers and text, or numbers and other characters. In my previous example, when I counted these cells with $55,000, I didn't have to use quotes because they were just numbers. But since Philadelphia is made up of letters, I have to surround these letters with double quotes. So I will go back to my formula and modify it so that Philadelphia has quotes around it. And now when I hit enter, I see that the count is 2, which is what I expected. Yes! Another example I wanted to show you with Countif is, let's say we want to count how many cells have salaries that are higher than $100,000. So I click on my cell, I type equal sign, I then type Countif, then tab, then I highlight my salaries data, then I type a comma, which moves me into my criteria. Then for my criteria, I will type in quotes, greater than sign, 100,000, close quotes, and hit enter. My result is correct because only one cell in this column fits this criteria. Pretty cool, right? Now, if you want to count cells that do not fit a criteria, we can use the Countif function like this. Say I want to count cells that do not equal Philadelphia. I will click on the cell where I want to display the result. I type equal sign, then I type Countif, then tab, then highlight my city cells, then type comma. Then the notation for not equal to in Excel formula is the less than sign followed by greater than sign. And remember, it needs to be in quotes. Then I hit enter, and boom, I get 8 because out of my 10 cells, 2 were equal to Philadelphia, so 8 are not equal to Philadelphia. And last but not least, we have the Countifs function. This is the same exact function as Countif, but it allows us to use more than one criteria. For example, let's count how many employees work in Las Vegas, but their salaries are still pending. So I click here, then equal sign, then I type Countifs, then tab, then I highlight my first set of cells, which in this case is my salaries, then comma, then my criteria is the word pending, and I surround it with quotes since it's text and not numbers. Then I type comma. And now notice that the function is asking me for a second set of cells as well as a second criteria. So I'll highlight now my city cells, then comma, and then I type Las Vegas. And by the way, text is not case sensitive, so don't worry about writing it with uppercase or lowercase. Now I hit enter, and boom, we found just one cell that fits these two criteria. How cool is that? Please do let me know in the comments below if these count functions are straightforward and easy to use now. Alright, so this was just one quick tutorial on this particular function. If you want to learn more about other functions, you may click on these videos here, or find even more videos below in the description. And as always, please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.